Episode number 30 of Making the Case. Vetting questions that will prevent you from wasting time dating. Hey, let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Making the Case, man. Glad you can be with us today. Episode number 30. I feel like I should have like some confetti come down or something. We episode 30, 30 episode, bro. Hey, that's an accomplishment, man. Thank y'all for tuning in. And if you haven't seen the prior 29 episodes, of course, go check them out. All right. Some people may be thinking that, man, he be all over the place when it comes to the topics and things of that nature. This is a relationship channel, an educational channel, right? So a lot of the topics that we do discuss are definitely relationship related and educational related as well. So the topics that we're talking about definitely tie into one of those two aspects. So just in case, if you're just coming here for relationship babble, all right, you're going to get a lot of that, but you're also going to get other topics that relate to relationships. And of course, I'll be willing to break that down for you or to you if you like. But of course, let me introduce myself. My name is No, just playing. Dr. Jacob Isom, educator, author, speaker, entrepreneur, father, content creator. I often leave that out because I guess it's the obvious, right? But over here we get two channel norms. One, we attack points and we don't attack people. And two, we don't do all the cussing and derogatory statements. You get that enough from other places. All right. So for episode 30, we're talking about vetting questions to prevent you from wasting your time dating. All right. Now, before I get into my opening statement, will you allow me just a quick minute or two? I'm saying quick, just to vent. Okay. Because I feel like I can open up, I feel like we family, right? So I feel like I could talk to y'all. All right. So today, I made a post and I try to post as much as I can on social networking sites because, of course, that's what you do as a content creator, right? Besides posting my videos and things of that nature, I often leave very riveting comments, educational, relationship based. That's just what I do, right? So what I actually posted was just basically statements that went into the mentality of women a lot nowadays and the psyche of kind of how some women are viewing dating. So, there was a few women that took exception to it. And the thing about it, the things that I posted were not even negative, right? It's just okay, I'll tell you what I posted. So you won't be wondering, what is he talking about? So I posted that, well, most short women want a guy substantially taller than that. Who doesn't know that? Most overweight women don't want a man that's the same weight as them. Who doesn't know that? Most women who are getting to that bag, who are strong and independent, want a man making just as much as not more. Who does not know that? That's all I put. And people are like, well, I don't need all that. Cool with you. If your standards are low, then why you single? Why you ain't got no man? That's what I want to know. So one thing you got to understand about me is I'm a accountability person. All right. No matter if you black, white, Asian, male, female, what have you. So some women take umbrage to the fact that a lot of time I talk about females. All right. Now, I'm not one of those people saying that if I talk about a female, then I have to talk. No, we've heard enough male bashing. I'm not this equality person. Whatever I talk about is what I talk about. Period. I don't have to explain myself, anything. I talk about what I want to talk about. It is what it is. So it's not going anywhere. So you just gonna have to stop following me. If you don't want to hear what I'm saying, you don't have to follow me. Please. All right. But please understand that unlike a lot of people out here, I'm not speaking for my emotion. I'm not speaking for my opinion. See, when you start speaking the truth and speaking facts, they all want to say, well, it's your opinion. People always want to say that. No, I do research. I read. Okay. Now, my opinion is going to be put into things. Absolutely, they are. But at the end of the day, I can give you the facts and stats and the data behind it. You can't because you're too lazy. Let's just be real. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to come out of pocket. Man, let's get to the episode. Enough it, all right? Hey, appreciate y'all for letting me do that though. Okay. So we're talking about vetting questions that you should be asking to prevent yourself from wasting time. So let's get into my opening statement. So and the reason why I preface with saying vetting questions, because we understand that when we're vetting somebody to potentially date and marry, if marriage is what you're looking for. We understand that everybody's not looking for marriage. So when you see these podcasts and all these people talking about, well, if you're not dating for marriage, what are you doing? Everybody don't want to be married, bro. Like it's ridiculous to even think. Like people literally think that 100% everybody want to have kids, everybody want to get married, everybody want to do this. Like it's ridiculous, man. Anyway, I get on my soapbox. Y'all got to keep me focused, okay? So there's questions during the dating phase and dating stages that you should be asking. So in this episode, what we're gonna do is we're gonna break them down. So we still gonna have three pieces of evidence, even though we're gonna be addressing vetting questions. All right. So I broke down the questions into kind of three different phases. Okay. And I got a name for each one of them. And we're just gonna break it down and go over it. And I'm curious to see, if you agree or if these are some questions that you've asked before. I think these are very good questions to ask at some point. I'm not saying that you have to ask at the certain stage, but at some point you should be asking these questions. All right. And you probably have questions that are more personal to your situation, more specific based on your standards, your wants, and your needs. And that's quite all right. Okay. So these questions are meant to be tailor made to your situation. But I thought I'll make a episode and a video about, well, vetting questions. Okay. So that we not wasting our time, that if people ain't checking off the things that you need, okay, then it's okay to, call it a wrap. All right. So without further ado, we're going to get into our first piece of evidence, or I should say, our first chunk of vetting questions that you should be asking when you're trying to pick a particular partner. All right. So let's get into it. All right. So for evidence number one, or for our breakdown of our vetting questions, I like to call this the weed them out questions. Okay. So as you can see, the weed them out questions start from 0 to 3 dates. Now, why did I include 0 in that? Well, because some of these questions you may want to ask over the phone, because of course it would be a good practice to talk to somebody over the phone or FaceTime. Both, actually. You should be talking, texting, FaceTime, and all that good stuff before you even go out with somebody. Okay. So you may ask these questions before you even decide to go out. And if you ask these questions, you don't like what you hear, well, there will be 0 dates. No dates will be had because you just need to move on. Okay. Now, can you give somebody a chance? Because let's just be real. This is what happens, right? If you're talking to them, more than likely you're physically attracted to them. All right. This is where, particularly for men, gets you in trouble, right? So you're physically attracted to her because men, we often go with what we see. And so you want to take her out because you want that slither of chance. You may get lucky. Okay. So even though you may have heard at least a yellow flag, maybe a red flag, right? But you still, let's be honest, you still would like to have sex with her. Okay. That's how males get in trouble. Now, on the flip side, how females get in trouble is they'll still go on the date, even though they're here. Some that they really not rocking with, but they'll go for a free meal or for entertainment. They're bored, they need to get out the house, or they don't really look at it as a long-term situation, but maybe they could just go have fun with them. We have to stop doing that. Okay. And I know I know. We've all been there and done it. But if you're really serious about finding someone, okay, you have to ask these vetting questions and you got to stick to your standards and your boundaries. Okay. So let's get into the vetting questions that I have. All right. Now, these are questions for both men and women. Of course, you may have to tailor them to the specific gender. And like I said in the opening statement, that, some of these questions can be asked later on. Some other questions we're going to talk about, you can kind of bump them up. It all depends on kind of what your forte is. Okay. So let's get into the weeding them out questions. All right. So here we go. So we have the very first one, and I didn't put these in any particular order. Do you have children? Do you want children? Right? Now, some people don't want to date people with children. Some people will only date people if they want children and if they don't have them. Right? So that's a very important question, because if you know that you don't want children, you don't want to be a stepmom or a stepdad, or you don't want any kids at all, that is a question for you to weed them out. Say, you know what? I'm sorry. This is the situation. I don't want kids, or I don't want to date somebody with kids. All right. Do you have multiple father, mothers, or your kids? Now, this is a big question that is being asked nowadays. Okay. Like, if you have 2 or 3 kids, does it just have one father or multiple father? Because what comes into play is the fact that, well, how many different people do I have to deal with, you sharing custody with? So men and women both need to know, okay, how many people do you really have in your life like that? And how many people are in your kids' life like that? Okay. Do you have pre-relationship where your kids are still cool with that person? Like, that's stuff that you need to know. All right. Because some people are not comfortable with that. Next question. Are your children father in their lives, full-time or part-time? All right. So I need to know if I'm going to have experience with somebody. I need to know if do y'all have a joint situation going on or weekends. Like, I need to know that. And now this might be a question that may be bumped down a tier or two. You may not want to ask this in the beginning, but some people like to ask this question. So it's kind of up to you. All right. Do you have any expectation to have a relationship with me make progress? So, what is your idea on the dating stage? Do you agree with living with somebody before marriage? Do you want to get married? Do you want to have children with each other? Things of that nature. So, how will the dating, the courtship, or whatever you may call it, how will that transpire? Okay. So it's good to get an idea from somebody of what their mentality is, what they're thinking on is, how the dating stages should be going. Both people need to express that, because you want to be on the same page when it comes to that, because that can definitely, if y'all don't agree on things, that can definitely go downhill if you get 2 different mentalities on that. So that's a very important question. What are the boundaries and expectations you have for a relationship? Everyone should have them, right? So, what is it that you don't like somebody to do? What is it that you think somebody should be doing, right? So, this is a very important question that you definitely need to ask in the beginning, because, like, if they feel comfortable with acting a certain way out in public, and we're going to get to a question that's going to kind of address that, like, you need to know about things of, how that person basically, what kind of standards do they have for a relationship? You need to know that. You open to relocating, which is a very important question, right? So if you're a person like, nah, I'm just going to be here for the rest of my life, and I'm like, nah, I want to move, well, there's no need to continue, right? I mean, that's kind of obvious. What are your thoughts on blending the family, and what is your parenting style, right? So if you both have kids, like, you need to discuss, well, how they would look. And once again, this may be a question you could bump down a tier or 2, but it's a good question to ask in the beginning if you feel comfortable, right? Particularly, what is your parenting style? Because if you a timeout person, but they put your foot in the behind person, well, it's not going to work out too great. So that's something that you probably will want to know up front, to be honest with you. What are your goals and ambitions? Okay. So I need to know, well, what is your aspirations? what do you do in life? What would you want to do? If money wasn't an object, well, what would you be doing? Those are good questions to ask because you need to see where somebody's head is at. Okay. Because if you're an ambitious person, well, it's not necessary you want somebody to be just as ambitious, but you want somebody to help you in order to get where you want to be. So those are good questions to ask. If we were to date, how do you see me fitting into your life? That is such a great question, right? So we both had two distinct lives, right? You're busy, I'm busy, you work, I work. How do you see us combining, coming together, putting our resources? What does sacrifice look like? What does the time together look like? That's probably a question you will want to ask very soon. If not first date, definitely second date. Okay. Do you have any expectation regarding how much time we will spend together? That's another great question, right? Because, some people are more nonchalant when it comes to dating, but some people is like, hey, I'm serious about this, so I would like to see you in order to make sure this is something I want to do moving forward, which is dating you. All right. So that's a question you definitely should ask in the beginning. Let's see. How frequently would you prefer to have contact? So, should you be communicating daily, weekly, things of that nature? For seeing somebody, what is your preferred method of communication? Text, phone call, face to face? I say the whole shebang, right? So, these are weed them out questions that you really should be asking to kind of like get a good glimpse into, who it is that you're trying to date and you're trying to take things serious, right? Because, like I said at the beginning, if you know you're not out trying to do anything serious or you didn't heard some answers up front and you really just going on a date just to be going on a date, don't do that. Okay. Because we often talk about how people playing games and stuff out here. Well, that's playing games. So, but this is a great list of questions to get you started from 0 to 3 dates, right? And I capped it off at 3 because when you hear some answers to these questions, they should really be like, oh, okay. I've heard enough for me to want to continue to see you. Right. So not saying that all these questions you're gonna hear and be like, oh yeah, she's on the money. It's not an interview, right? But you know, if you're hearing good, if you haven't getting good feedback, y'all having great conversation and dialogue, you can see that she's intellectual and things of that nature. Now, hey, we could take it further, right? Because you could do 3 dates in 2 weeks. 2 weeks is not a long time. All right. So, or you could do 2 or 3 dates in a week and a half, a week. Like some people are over ambitious like that. So, but this was, 0 to 3 days, the weeding out questions, the vetting questions. So after you ask these questions, you get a great idea if you want to continue further seeing this person and really get to know them on a deeper level. All right. So we're gonna get into our second piece of evidence, and we're gonna go a little bit deeper with the questioning. All right, let's go. All right, so piece of evidence number 2. Now, you didn't get to date 2 or 3. Y'all feeling each other. The vibe is right. You feel like you got a connection. You didn't ask some very good questions, and you're satisfied with what you heard. Okay. Now, the next stage, quote unquote, is now we're getting a little bit personal questions. All right. So these are going to be some very intentional questions for you to ask to really get down to the nitty gritty if you really want to really continue on to seeing this person and this person really being a viable candidate for you being in a relationship with. Because really, after these questions right here, you know what? Yeah, I can see this person, really being in my life like that, me really spending some time with her and things of that nature. All right. So these are now we getting personal questions. So let's get into it. First question, would you consider being a stay-at-home parent or partner? All right. Now, of course, nowadays that's not feasible and viable for a lot of people, but for some people it is. So you would need to know if that person you're talking to, would they be comfortable with being at home, taking care of the kids if you have kids, or even if you don't have kids, being at home and taking care of the home? And, if that person is running the business and taking care of the business. So I think it's a very important question to ask, because some people are like, no, I wouldn't do that. And like I said, this is not gender specific. So men can stay at home too. Now, the likelihood of that, of course, we know is low, but to each his own. All right. So, next question: how important is your mental health? How do you manage to take care of your mental health? So, mental health is extremely important. Okay. So important that we understand that a lot of people are deleting themselves because of it. A lot of people are having to take drugs because of it. Right. So, you need to know what this person's mental health is and how do they handle the stress and the different things that come along in their life, the negativity, the drama. How do they handle all this stuff? So you really need to be, attentive and listening to what they're saying about how do they actually cope. Right. Great question that you need to be asking. Right? How important is working out and dieting in your life? Right. We want to make sure that whoever we choose is not just a person that, says, take me as I am. Because unfortunately, you hear that a lot right now. But you have to understand and I mentioned this before, if I decide and choose to get with you, I don't want you to become a burden on me because you don't want to be disciplined and you don't want to take care of yourself physically, right? Physically or mentally, right? So you have to be asking and see where this person's head is. And a lot of time when it comes to the physical, where you just see literally how they are, right? But there's a lot of people that may look physically healthy, but they're not. Okay. So that's another thing to keep in mind. How often do you spend time with your family or friends? So if it's somewhere I meet with my family every Sunday, or me and my friends go out every other day, like those are things that you need to know because you need to be asking yourself, well, where do you find time for me? And when I do come in the picture, do you scale some of that back, or do you feel like you still should be? Do I get certain days? Like, so these are important questions that you really need to ask, because if you feel like that person is really not going to make the time for you, then this is a point where you're going to want to bow out. All right. Are you satisfied with where you are in life? Okay. Now, this question is intended for, not for someone to be like, you know what, I'm content. Right. So, and if somebody does tell you that, you need to dig a little deeper. Like, okay, so why are you a person that, do you feel like you're stagnant right now? Why are you content? Right. So you need to dig a little deeper if someone kind of give you a bland answer, because this question is really asking them, are they happy? Right. And if not, okay, then why are they not happy? And a lot of it due to where we feel like we should be. Okay. So that will create great dialogue and conversation for you to kind of go into, what that person mindset is. Let's see where we at. What are the top priorities in your life? Such a great question, right? So a person may want to rank them, or a person may just want to rattle them off of what their top priority is. And really, I would say, other than your kids and family, and you may want to include friends, what are your top priorities? Because that's a lot of people go to, right? My kids are my world. I don't know what I would do. Like, I'd be so tired of hearing that. It was like, duh. Like, anybody who love their kids are okay. I digress. So I would ask it, other than your kids and your family and your friends, what are your top priorities? Right. And based on the responses, once again, you have some great conversation. And these are now we getting on a personal question. These are the in-depth questions. These are the questions that supposed to be open-ended to really get you to understand a person's thought process. All right. Let's see. How much time do you have for hobbies or interests? What hobbies and interests are important to you? Right. So that also goes into kind of what makes you happy. Talking about, well, do you got a routine? What are your habits and things of that nature? Because what we do on a daily basis, those are our habits, patterns, and trends. right? And you could tell a lot about a person based on habits, patterns, and trends. And you just discussing what it is that they do on a daily basis and what their priorities are, their hobbies and interests, that's going to tell you a lot about who they are as a person. Okay. Do you enjoy going to bars, clubs, concerts, festivals, cruises, etc.? Right. So, what are some of these things that you like to do? All right. And why do you find enjoyment in them? Right. I can already tell you if you're of a certain age, particularly past 35, right? If someone mentioned bars and clubs, yeah, that's kind of a yellow flag, right? Why are you still in bars and clubs? Bars, maybe not so much, but clubs, come on now. You the old person in the club like that? What influence will your friends, family have on our relationship? So are you a person that listen to what your friends and family say about me? Like that's why it's dangerous for you to confide in your family and friends when something's not going right because I ain't like him in the first place. I ain't like her in the first place. So how much of your family and friends is going to be all up in our business? Because really it's about that individual person. Do you believe in a prenup? So if we're talking about marriage, I need to know, do you believe in a prenup? Because nowadays that's become very important. Okay. So that's something you want to discuss. Absolutely. Ideally, how often would you like to have sex? Now, here are the good questions, right? So that's something you need to know because, for a lot of guys, 5 days a week. I mean, you might think that's crazy or sound crazy, but hey, just telling you. Okay. So that's important to have a discussion about. Do you have any kinks, fetishes, or BDSM dynamics? Like kinks, fetishes, or dynamics you would like to explore. So now we know we're really getting personal, right? So these are some because if somebody is really too out there, you might want to be like, no, that's not my style. You might want to find somebody else. Okay. So kind of important to talk about. And the last one is when was the last time you got tested for STIs? Which is a great question. And no one should be offended by someone asking that question. Because you should be asking that question. Because you should want to know that the person that you're going to potentially have sex with has been tested and keep themselves safe. All right. So that's our piece of evidence number 2. Now we getting personal question. That's between dates 4 to 8. If you've made it that far, congratulations, right? All right. So now we get into that last stage, that stage where it's like, all right, yeah, we could take this person, on vacation and stuff like that. Yeah, now we really getting serious. All right. Take them to meet family. Because at this point, you shouldn't have met no family. Right? Maybe friends, but not no family. All right. So let's get to our third piece of evidence where, yeah, we really get into the thick of things. All right. Let's get it. All right. So y'all went out a few times. You've asked the right questions. You ain't got a little personal, and things seem to check out, right? So now y'all really fitting each other. Y'all done been to each other's houses. Sex could be involved or not. That's y'all choice. Y'all grown, right? Let's be real. Most people are having sex outside of marriage because we ain't gonna front like that ain't happening. We like to be realistic, right? So y'all done had some dates where you went out. You had some dates where you just, inside the house, right? So you vibing everything good, right? Now you at the point where you're really thinking about getting in a relationship with somebody. You're thinking about them meeting the family. And if you have kids, you're thinking about them meeting the kids, right? Now, before you go to that route, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, with this final stage, is ask what I call value questions. All right. So these are the questions to really get to understand, okay, what does this person value in life the most? Okay. So these are the last set of questions that really gonna get to you to figure out, okay, this person can be the one. All right. So let's get into it. So the first question, what are your best qualities? What areas of your life would you like to improve? So this is what are your strengths and weaknesses? Now I didn't want to ask it that way, so this is why I phrased them the way that I did. And by the way, I referenced a one called Better Wellness for a lot of these questions. I just put some of my spin on it. So I did definitely want to give them a shout out for that and them credit for that. So before I forget. So yeah, this is the question that, okay, tell me about what do you think your best strengths and what are the things that, you feel like you can improve on. All right. You also might, and I'm not sure if I do have it on there, you also might want to ask about, okay, what do you feel like you did in your previous relationship to cause a downfall? And you want to ask it like that because if you ask in general, why did your last relationship end? They're always going to blame the other person. So that's why you want to phrase it that way. Okay. Next question. What is the most thoughtful thing you've ever done for someone? Okay. And the reason why this is an important question is because you want to hear what they think is really thoughtful because it's not the fact that whether some is minor or major, but it's the fact that if you've never done something big for somebody, then you might be of a mentality that you don't have to. All right. We often know men like to go big or go home, right? But a lot of time we complain as men when it comes to holidays or anything like we get trash gifts, which that is true, right? A lot of times we just get the worst gift. I don't know why women think we want socks and drawers and t-shirts. Like, come on. Like, but we got to get y'all. Anyhow. So that is a very good question to ask because and the reason why it's a value question is because now whatever you tell me is going to be based off of what you think that someone might value or someone might appreciate. All right. Tell me about your support system, friends, family, coworkers, emotional, financial, mental support. All right. So what kind of support system do you have in your life? How important are they to you? Right. Who are the people that help you recharge? Who are the people you vent to? All right. Who do people help you out in a stressful situation? Who are your go-to people when you're in a sticky situation, right? You need to know about that, right? Because your support system is supposed to be those people you value, all right? So you need to know who those people are if you're going to move forward. And at this stage, from dates 9 to 12, you should be meeting these people, right? What are your thoughts on these issues? Trans right, Black Lives Matter, gun control, women rights, gender equality, LGBTQ issues, etc. Right now, this is where you really get to the nitty gritty. Right, you really get to understand people' positions on something because that's important. Because if y'all have two, and I'm not saying that y'all can't disagree or have different positions and it still work out, but if they're too extreme, right? It could be detrimental to a relationship. So you definitely want to understand where people fall when it comes to those issues. Because those are hot button issues, right? How important is your career job to you, right? Is it just something that helps you pay the bills or is it your passion? Is it what you consider your purpose, right? So because people have different ideas because some people are just like, man, I'm just waiting for retirement. If some people are like that, other people are like, man, I want to do this until I die. I'm one of those. All right. Oh, let's see. How do you support your partner in their career? All right. So I know we both got things going on, but like if we're in a relationship, two people are supposed to be there to support each other. So how do you go about doing that? Like that's such a great question to ask. Let's see. Do you believe in traditional gender roles? Right. So if we got kids before we blend this family, right? Or before we get married, even if we don't have kids, right? Well, what are both our roles going to be? Okay. Is it more modern? Is it more traditional? We need to be having that discussion before we even set foot in the house with each other or sign any kind of contract. These things have to be discussed. How do you feel about being in a power or powerless position? Now, I phrase it this way because this question is simply asking, how do you feel about submission? Right? How do you feel about being a leader? So, as the man, how do you feel about being a leader? As a woman, how do you feel about being submissive? Okay. That has to be discussed. Okay. Particularly the attitude when it comes to the word submission. If you have to explain what that is, you might be in trouble. Now, this might be a question you move up to the first stage, right? The weed in the mouth. You might want to move this up. All right. Anyhow, you definitely want to ask. How important is money to you? Do you value money? Or does it serve a means to an end? For me, money serves a means to an end, right? I get money, but I get money so I can do certain things with it, so I can help people out, etc. Right? So if it's a person just enamored with money, like it's something you need to know. How important is your social professional image? Right? So when we go out this house, do you want to look a certain way? I need to know, like, are you into the lashes, the makeup, the wigs, the weave, etc.? Like, I need to know, like, socially, how do you see yourself or want to present yourself? Like, because image is everything. So that's something that you need to discuss. How would you feel if your partner made significantly more money than you or significantly less money than you? Right? Because let's be real, a lot of relationships end because of money. A lot of marriages do. So that money conversation has to happen before you even get in a relationship, because money will exchange. There's no two ways around it. Would you be willing to eliminate or tamper your social media presence for your partner? Ooh, that is a question that might trigger some people, right? Because you can't be my girl and you bent over posting booty pictures. Just not gonna fly, right? Like, social media for me is for business. My private life is meant to be private. But that's my take, right? Everybody doesn't operate like that. So it's going to be based on the individual person when it comes to whether or not you could completely don't have social media or you just don't post a lot. That's a conversation you definitely need to have, though, because social media ruins relationship. And I think you would agree with that. Do you use recreational drugs? What kinds and how often? That's kind of something. And like I mentioned before, it might be a question you want to bump up the weed out. Because if you drug free and you don't want nobody to do drugs, then that's something that want to be stated. All right. I imagine that if somebody drink alcohol, that would have already been discussed, or you would have seen that well before the ninth date. So, and really, that question is not for alcohol; it's more for other kind of drugs. So, and the last one is, what does privacy look like in your relationship? I'm a private person. Like, I'm not all for the posting pictures every other day to show that we in a relationship and we lovey-dovey. More of a private person. So you need to really understand and ask somebody, like, how private would they like to be in a relationship? Right. So that's evidence number 3, the value questions. That goes up to day 12. And of course, it could be extended a little bit out or a little bit less. That's up to you. But those are the questions that are from 0 to 12 that you really should be asking one shape or form. And of course, you can always ask more, ask less. It's up to you. All right. So, of course, we're going to end this thing with my closing statement. All right. So, there you have it, man. I know those are a lot of questions. This is a lengthy video, definitely longer than the usual. So I apologize. I always try to keep it in reasonable length because I know you got things to do and our attention spans are not what they used to be. But then again, you can watch a movie, you can watch a NBA, NFL game, you can watch 45 minutes. All right. But we definitely finna wrap up this episode. Hopefully you heard some questions that you definitely want to take with you and add on if that's what you want to do. But I definitely think these are some questions you definitely should be asking someone that you're dating. Like I said, you might want to do it in less amount of dates if you're a person that kind of spread dates out. And you definitely don't want to, like, please don't do this. Please don't print this out, type these up, print them out, and then bring them and then ask. Don't do that. But one suggestion I will give you, and I've done this before actually, what you could do is you could write these questions on a different card, right? and make it like a game. All right. And when you get to a place, once you didn't weed that person out, well, if you get to a comfortable place between 4 to 8, 9 to 12 dates, do a little staycation or a vacation, and then just make it a night where you have index card with these questions on there, and then you just ask some questions back and forth, right? So you're not making it as like it's an interview type situation, but that's just a suggestion, where you can kind of get information, particularly when it comes to the more personal questions and the value questions. Those weed them out questions you're gonna already been asked, but for the other question, you can do it like that. You're welcome. So, but no, I definitely feel like these are questions you should be asking so you don't waste your time on when it comes to dating. All right. So we're gonna end the episode because it's already a very long one as is. All right. Your boy tired. It's been a long day. Okay. But as always, man, thank you for rocking with me, man. Hey, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if there's any topics you would like for me to make the case on. Definitely shoot them in the comments. You already know, go get the book, The Relationship Guide. That's my latest book. Link will be in the description. Of course, I got the merch. That link will be in the description as well. I leave all my social media handles, all that good stuff. Okay. As always, you are me, love, always love, eternal. Remember, the worst thing you do is lie to yourself. All right. And I think we made that case, baby. All right. Out.